Hello, here we are, learning with Mr. Neff, and I'm here to teach you today about the famous quadratic formula. And this is to be used in all situations you could be using in solving quadratic equations. So some of the other stuff, you wouldn't need to do it that way because you can do it this way. And so I can solve quadratic equations using the formula. Also, we're going to talk about the discriminant and the quadratic formula. Vocab, though. So there's the quadratic formula. The discriminant, what is that? Well, that's the underneath the radical. So here's the formula. For the quadratic formula states x equals negative b, positive negative, square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So something to take in. X equals negative b, positive negative, square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But underneath that radical, the b squared minus 4ac, that is the discriminant. And that will be used, as I'll explain later, to figure some things out. And so here's an example of what we would do normally to solve, but in all those cases we can't necessarily do that, and we have to apply the quadratic formula. So here you see it worked out right here. And really the key is to identify what's A, what's B, and what's C and plug it in. So it's actually really nice. It looks complex, but it's actually really nice. So in this equation right here, A is 1. Why is it 1? Because you know that that is hidden over there. B is 6 and C is 9. Pay attention whether things are positive or negatives here. And so we just drop everything in here. So negative b, positive or negative, b squared, see right there, minus 4 times 1 times 9. All right, and so negative 6, positive or negative, 36 minus 36, which will get us a 0. And then, as you can kind of see there, we're going to do the math out. Now this, it says positive or negative. Well, this is a case where you're only going to have one answer because it's 0, as I'll talk about later. And so negative 6 plus 0 or negative 6 minus 0 is the same thing. Therefore, negative 6 divided by 2 is x equals negative 3. And of course, how do we know we're right? Check. Yeah, I heard you say it. Okay, thank you. That's negative 3 squared in parentheses, of course, plus 6 times negative 3 plus 9. Does that equal 0? Let's see, we got 9 plus negative 18. We don't have a lot of room. Plus 9, does that equal 0? Yes, it sure does. We did that right. Okay, so that's the first example. I'm going to give you one more here. So what are the solutions of 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 equals 0? Again, if you remember, this is like watching the graph, and where would they cross the x-axis at when the x-intercepts, basically? All right, so what are we going to do here? We're going to identify our a, b, and c. A is 2, b is 5, and c is 3. And what we're going to do? Plug it in. Okay, and so we plug this in, and you see negative 5, positive or negative, right? B squared minus 4ac, you see all that there, all over 2a, and that's plugged in. So start simplifying. Do everything under the radical first. 25 minus 24, that is 1. Well, what next step? What's the square root of 1? That's 1. Now is where we split. We're going to do two parts here, okay? It says negative 5 plus 1 and negative 5 minus 1, and we're going to have two answers here, which generally when it's squared, you're going to see two answers, all right? And so negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1, so our first solution is negative 1. Then negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6 divided by 4, that's negative 1.5. So those are our two solutions to that one there. All right, so following it step by step, we're plugging it in there, and we're going to see what we get. We square it, we subtract, we square root, then we split. All right, right here is where the split occurs. It didn't occur in the last example because it equaled 0 under the radical. So we have two solutions, and there's the answers there. All right, due to time constraints, that's your one main example, and here's some questions for you to do. All right, and the person who made this, Dakota, she, I'm sure has it correct when I show you the next slide. So you can pause this, try that formula out, and then look at the solution. disclaimer, I did not check to make 100% sure that these are right, but I want to get you a video that you could watch. So go ahead, pause. Yep. Here's the answer. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing again. All right, here's another one, and you're going to go through that. But I want to help you out here. What do you got to do here? So you can pause it. But I'm going to make sure you realize we have to go ahead and add 4 to make sure it equals 0. We got to have it by itself here. And so when we add 4, now, right, we manipulated that formula by adding 4 on both sides. Now we can do the quadratic formula with A being 1, B being -4, and C being 4, if you can see it okay. And that answer, if you pause, that answer is 2. Okay. All right. Now, what I want you to know about this here is underneath the radical, that b squared minus 4ac. All right. Well, we kind of already saw it a little bit. B squared minus 4ac, if that number is greater than 0, that tells you you're going to have 2 solutions. It's positive. If that number is positive, right, you're going to have 2 solutions. If that is exactly 0 under there, we already had that, right? That you're going to have 1 solution, okay? And if it's negative, so you have a negative under the radical, well, that kind of gives it away. That's going to have no solution to that at all. So be aware of that then in that situation. You would be able to know how many solutions. That's something I think you will need to know preparing for your state assessment. And one more thing to finish it off. For each condition given, tell whether this will always, sometimes, or never be true, basically. Have 2 solutions. So basically, with b squared, okay, is less than 4ac. Is that always, sometimes, or never? So if b squared minus 4ac, right? So if b squared is less than 4ac, well, that would make that answer negative, right? So you would never have a solution. Then b squared equals 0. So if b squared equals 0, all right, and you're minus 4ac, all right, minus 4ac is, so if 4ac is, well, what would you have over? It could be positive or negative, okay, and therefore you would have an option that sometimes that would be true. And then if AC is less than 0, it would mean it's negative. Okay, so there's different options here. With AC is less than 0. So if AC is negative, again, I had to pause it here for a moment. Sorry about that. B squared, okay, and then it'd be negative. So this whole thing would be negative, right? Oh, wait, that means that'd be plus plus. And therefore, you'd be adding to whatever this is. And you know b squared would be positive. So you are guaranteed a positive and a positive. Therefore, that will always work. Okay? So those are the scenarios that could have come. Never, sometimes, and always. Never can that be, always, sometimes, and then always. And that is the end of that. Okay, have a quadratic day. Bye-bye.